Hey everybody, Toby here with another Stratego game analysis. In this game we're playing a silver captain who I thought was probably a gold player who was on a losing streak. But he played pretty well. But I played awful in this game because my terrible memory. So let's see if we can overcome my terrible memory blunders. Let's get started. And we'll move along. I just make some few changes. And he goes first. I go up and over. Yay! We survived the first two moves. All right. Now this is a game where my memory just totally failed me. It was just a bad memory day. And to play Stratego well, you really have to be able to concentrate. And you really have to be able to memorize, 5 or 6 pieces that have been revealed. And if you can't do that, it's going to be hard to beat top players. So I should pull this back. I don't want to lose the sergeant without maybe gaining this, because that's a lieutenant. And that kind of sucks when you do that, when you lose a captain just to reveal a major and not get anything out of it. That's always not the best of starts. So I did it here anyway, and we got a lieutenant. So not a good start here, down a captain and sergeant. I don't want to reveal my colonel so early in the game. Hopefully I get him to think this is a weak side, not a strong side. So that's good. We found a general. That's pretty good, finding a general for just a lieutenant. I would take that trade. Find the information. Information is so important in this game. And most beginners still don't understand the concept that how important information is versus the pieces. We have to remember where the general went. See, he doesn't know what this piece is. He might think this could be the marshal, because a lot of times when you play silver players, they have a marshal on this open column here. They like to blitz and sometimes lotto, so they like it right on the first row. That's why it's always a good idea to have a spy, right behind the legs when you're playing a lot of silver players. So I lose track of this lieutenant, and I think I lose track of this major. I think I scout them both twice. And then I scout a captain 3 times in less than 4 minutes. It's pretty bad. My memory can be really bad some days. Some days I can't even play the game. I think this might have been the game where I decided from now on, any player lower than 600 ELO, I'm always going to take the general with the marshal, no matter what position in the game I'm in, unless I'm way behind. I figure I can play better than most of those players with the general and spy versus their marshal. And then maybe 20, 25% of the time, you get the general outright. The spy isn't guarding the general. So I'm willing to risk my marshal. I think this game, after I played this game, I decided every time I find a general, I'm going to take it. I could have won this game easily if I would have. His general's here, and this isn't a spy. So I could have just walked in and captured his general, and he probably would have quit. The game would have been over. So now I just want to move something in front of the flag, just in case when I go down and over, if this is a scout, I don't want him scouting the flag. And I'm thinking about taking it, but I was hesitant because I thought he was a pretty decent player. I mean, his record was so-so. It was only a few games over 500. So see, I could have got the general. So now we have to look over here where the spy is going to come from. And so I bluff Chase with the miner just to see where he goes. Of course, I'm letting him have an opportunity to scout the flag. So now I'm thinking this is a spy now. So we have to remember general and spy. And I think this was a lieutenant and this was a major, I think. So remember this piece. This is going to be important later in the game. And I always tend to remember stationary targets, majors, and colonels, because I'm a counterattacker and I always want to know where they are. I put a real strong emphasis on remembering where stationary targets are so I can counterattack them later. So this is a major, and that's going to be important in this game. So here I scout this captain, and I scout him 2 more times in the next 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and it's pretty sad. So that just goes to show you, he only does a little bit of shuffling. He's not really a major shuffler. He just moves his pieces up and over, and I guess for whatever reason I wasn't paying attention, or I just couldn't pay attention. I just had a bad memory day, and it's hard to play Stratego well when you have a bad memory day. So I'm getting behind here. I'm behind 2 captains and 2 sergeants. So that's not good. But at least I got a lieutenant advantage. Now I'm hoping my marshal doesn't get scouted. That would screw things up. He still has 5 scouts. And there's not much I can do with his spy there, so I decided to back off. So general, spy, major, captain, I guess that was a lieutenant, and major. Now I'm hoping this lieutenant doesn't take the flag. That would suck. And now really I just want to clear my lane here so my general can counterattack. I'm basically just I hope that's what I was hoping first, that a scout would come, and then I knew this was a major. I was just clearing the lane so my general can counterattack. I hate to do that. You hate to waste a piece like that, but I just didn't want it in the way. And that was rather unfortunate that my general got scouted. But now we should be able to flush out the marshal. It's better the general gets scouted than the marshal. So see, I forgot that lieutenant. So I scouted it again. That's twice. I said, oh, you can't do that. You have to remember these pieces. And this was a captain, and this was a major. Spy, general, major. And now this is probably the marshal here. And see, now I scouted the captain again for a second time in 2 minutes. That's the major. This is the marshal. This is the captain. So he tucks his captain here, and he just did a couple shuffling moves. And this is his marshal. You can just tell that it's his marshal. He's giving it away. But he's not dumb enough to come all the way down. So let's see if we can remember. We got lieutenant, general, probably spy, major, captain, marshal. And that's a lot of stuff to remember when you're moving back and forth and then thinking about the stuff you want to move. You really have to concentrate in this game. And now I really have to concentrate because I'm down 2 captains and a sergeant and a minor. And that's embarrassing. I scouted this captain 3 times. I think it was less than 4 minutes. So I must have been really bored during this game, or I just wasn't paying attention. It's a good thing I didn't waste the scouts early in the game. I just waste them in the middle of the game. So that was good. He found that bomb, so maybe he thinks my flag is a bomb now. So that was kind of nice. He found this bomb. Now I believe this is the major, the marshal, and the captain. And that's a lieutenant, and that's a general, that's a spy, and that's another major. And I see I scouted the marshal again. So you can see I wasted on 3 pieces. It took me 7 different scouting pieces to remember three pieces. That's pretty sad. You don't want to do that against really good players because chances are you won't win. So now, I thought maybe this was the marshal. I got mixed up. And, well, that's a bummer. So now, I'm down a colonel, a captain, a sergeant, and a minor, and a scout. things are not looking too good, are they? But at least I have information. It's always good. People don't, the beginning players just underestimate how important information is. And then you have to think the way your opponent would think. One thing I wish they would have is on the Stratego site is if you could flip the board during the game so you could see the view of your own pieces if you were attacking your own self. That would be really nice. So you can think just like your opponent is thinking. And that would help you, I think, plan a lot better. So, but the one advantage, even though I'm down a colonel and a captain and some other pieces, the one advantage I have is my marshal is hidden. You can always come from behind if you have your marshal hidden. But if your marshal is revealed, it's incredibly difficult to come back when you're down, several major pieces. Like if you're down a general and something, or a colonel and a couple captains, it's very hard to come back. But if you have your marshal hidden, and that's why it's so important to keep your marshal revealed as long as possible. Don't let it get scouted early by scouts or sergeants or even a captain. And then if you have it hidden, you can always come back. That's such an important piece to winning in Stratego. One thing is when you decide to bring your marshal into the game. Most beginners bring their marshal in way too early, and I'm totally on the opposite end now. I bring my marshal in way too late. I lose a lot of games because I'm too hesitant to use my marshal. But there are good players, and probably the top players know exactly when to use the marshal at the right time. And that's something you just have to play, hundreds and hundreds of games to figure out when's the exact time to start using your marshal. So now most beginners probably would quit. They think they can't win. They're down a colonel, they're down a captain. This player's pretty decent player, so they're going to surrender and play another game. Well, you really shouldn't do that. You should learn to play from behind, and your opponent will make mistakes. Even the best players make mistakes. But if you quit, you're never going to give them a chance to make mistakes. And then you're never going to ever win from coming from behind. So, think of it as a really strong challenge when you fall behind. And that's when the real fun begins. Then you really have to work hard to try to figure out how to win. So we know that's the marshal. This is a lieutenant. This is a general. And the spy, and probable spy, and the major. And this, I guess, is his other major. So let's see what we can do. Now, I don't like this lieutenant here. I think he forgot my general. He moves the lieutenant there, so that's fine. Or maybe he just was tempting me to come forward, but he might have forgot my general. So normally you don't want to trade when you're behind, since I'm behind a captain and a colonel. But I just wanted to get the lieutenant away from my flag. If my flag wasn't here, I might not have done this. But I was worried that the lieutenant might just charge in. If he gets a big enough lead, the lieutenant might just hit this piece. So we got that off the board, and now I don't have to worry about my general. But I'm up now to lieutenant, so that's good. So now the plan I have is, if you're this opponent here, my opponent, and he knows the major has been revealed, and he probably knows his spy has been compromised, what should he do? Well, he either has to bring his marshal over here to guard this stuff, or since he's up a colonel, he can use a colonel to guard the spy and major. He probably doesn't think my marshal's going to come up here because my marshal can't do anything because the spy's here. So he probably thinks I'm going to come up, and it makes perfect sense. I'm going to come up with my colonel to try to get either the spy or the major. So he's going to defend probably with his colonel, and that's what I'm hoping. So I'm bringing the colonel up. And I'm betting that this is a colonel. And sure enough, it was. And that was the perfect time to use the marshal. And it took me a few seconds to figure that out. I figured, well, what would you do if you were in his shoes here? He had his spy here and his major here. And he knew the marshal couldn't do anything, but the colonel could. So then he comes up with the colonel. And if I brought up any bluff piece, he would capture that and increase his lead. But if he gets the colonel off the board, that's good too. So he played, I think, the correct way to play. I think I would have used a scout myself because he still had 2 scouts, and that's when they're very helpful. But I think when you're up a high piece, using that high piece to help defend is the right thing to do. But in this case, I caught him with the marshal. So I played that perfectly. But I'm still behind now. I'm still behind a captain. And in some lower pieces, I'm down a sergeant, down a minor. And I don't want to swap because I'm behind. You don't want to swap when you're behind. So now my plan is still to come up here and get either the spy or the major. I really want the major. I don't have to worry about too much about the spy. But I'd like to get the major since I'm down a captain. So hopefully I can lure the marshal back over this way. And then we need to find his other colonel. But it doesn't look like it's over here. And he probably thinks my colonel is on this side, since most players have a balance. Usually I have a colonel on one side and a colonel on the other side. So he probably thinks my colonel's over here. He doesn't think it's this piece, probably not. And that makes sense. You know, if you go with the odds, he might think this is a colonel since I'm coming up. And I'm hoping that this is his colonel. I want to find it. And I'm worried about my captain here. If his colonel's over here, I don't want to go down another captain. And I'm so happy now that that's his colonel. Now he knows his spy and major are in trouble. He's too late. And he decides to save the spy. I think I would have tried to save the major. But so now we take the lead. So you can see in just a few moves, I was in total despair, down a colonel, down a captain. And in a short time, I turned it around. And now I'm up a major, and we know where his spy is. So now I'm thinking he's going to lotto. And because that's usually a shock for a beginner when they lose the lead. They panic instead of trying to think first and play maybe a little more conservatively. They panic right away and start charging in, and that usually leads to a loss. You wind up hitting bombs, and he's not in such a bad situation. He knows my marshal and knows my colonel, so he knows my high pieces, and he is up a captain on me. But he is down 2 lieutenants, but he's up a sergeant. So it's not so bad. He didn't really have to lotto here. So I'm worried about a lotto. So I decided to think, well, the smart thing for me to do would be just to move my major over and down and then bring my marshal up. But I wanted to test him because for me, the fun part of the game is just seeing if I can manipulate players to make them do what I want them to do. Because when you figure that out, then you can beat really, really good players. So what I wanted to do is I was thinking, because I took a lot of time here, I was thinking, well, I'm going to leave my major. I'm going to let him be still because he didn't find any bombs on this row yet. So he's probably thinking there's a lot of bombs left on this second row. And if I just move up here and he comes down, and then I move here and he comes down, and then if I move up right away, I doubt he's going to come straight down. I was betting that he would not lotto my major. And I was thinking maybe he was going to come try to get this captain, which makes more sense. Maybe if this isn't bombed off, maybe he has a major over here. He takes his colonel to get my captain trapped. Or maybe he hopes I screw up the 2 square rule and he gets a captain. So I thought if I just leave the major here, he's not going to take it. And I just wanted to see if I could pull that off. So sometimes I play for research than for winning or losing. I'm willing to bet a loss just to test if my hypothesis is correct, that if I just move smoothly here, he's not going to take my major. And I was almost thinking maybe 70-30 that he wouldn't lotto. I thought maybe he would target this captain because he knew it was a captain. And that would help him out going up 2 captains. So let's see what happens. It took me a while to think this out. And the obvious move is just to move your major to safety over and down. But I did not want to do that. I wanted to leave this block solid. And that was so smooth. I didn't hesitate. And I thought he was going to chase my captain. And he hits a bomb. And the game is over. So, that wasn't so bad. 17 minutes, 314 moves. So, I didn't think it was, like I said, I didn't think he was going to lotto. I thought he would have been better off trying to capture this captain. But then, maybe he bombed off a side. I wish these pieces would be revealed at the end of the game so we could see that. But, because he had 2 majors, this would have been easy to capture. And, but he did not do that. And then if this was bombed off, I guess he didn't want his colonel to be trapped. Because, he needed to gain a piece since he was down a major. So, and this piece wasn't bad to me, it wasn't a bad lotto, this piece. He's probably correct 93% of the time, 94% of the time. And since he found a bomb on this row, the odds are very low of having 2 bombs on this row. So since he found one here, and this, behind the lakes, you usually don't have a lot of bombs. So that wasn't a bad lotto. I think hitting this piece was much, much safer than hitting this piece. If you play 100 games, he'd be better off hitting this than this. But unfortunately, he in this game, he guessed wrong. And that was a nice come-from-behind victory. So the key to this game was, the bad part was my terrible memory. But I learned now to always, for me at least, I'm always going to take a general. If I'm playing someone 600 or lower, I'm always going to take their general with my marshal. And then play with my general and spy versus their marshal. I think I can do just as well as they can with their marshal. And then the other thing is to learn when to use your marshal at the right time. Don't reveal your marshal early. If you reveal your marshal early, you better not get behind a lot of pieces because it's incredibly difficult to come from behind when you're down a colonel and a major or a couple of majors and a captain when your marshal is revealed because your opponent can block it. And that's why you watch Drunken Player when he plays. He always quits when he reveals a high piece, and that's because his marshal's always revealed, and it's very difficult. I mean, you can always go lotto if your marshal gets revealed and his marshal's on this side of the board and you're on this side of the board. You can always lotto, but it's very difficult to win when your marshal gets revealed and you're way behind in the piece count. All right, so thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. We'll work on the next video. Bye for now.